One autumn afternoon, Officer Coleman rescued a trembling puppy, stranded on a quiet roadside. He had no idea this simple act of kindness would ignite a covert war against a ruthless animal trafficking ring. Will a tiny pup named Chance and a mysterious silver guardian be enough to tip the scales of justice? Officer Liam Coleman thought he was stopping just another car on a quiet autumn afternoon. The kind of routine traffic check he had carried out countless times with little more than idle conversation and a polite nod. Yet, as he approached the vehicle, his trained ears caught an unmistakable sound, a tiny, terrified whimper coming from the back seat that pierced the calm rustle of fallen leaves outside. His heart clenched at the soft plea for help, and he paused, drawn closer by an unexplainable sense of urgency that rose within him. With gentle care, he unlatched the car door and was confronted by a frail puppy, huddled against the leather interior, its thin body trembling so violently that every breath seemed a struggle. The ribs showing beneath its matted fur told a story of long days without proper nourishment and nights spent shivering in the cold, abandoned by those who should have protected it. His hands, calloused from years of enforcing the law, were unsteady as he scooped the frightened creature into his arms, cradling it with the kind of tenderness reserved for the most precious of lives. He whispered soft assurances, each word trembling with a mixture of relief and sorrow, as tears welled in his eyes and mingled with the puppy's shaky breath. In that moment, beneath the fading golden light of the autumn sky, Officer Coleman realized this was no ordinary duty. It was a sacred act of compassion that bound officer and animal in an unspoken pact of trust and hope. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, knowing that by saving this fragile life, he was igniting the first spark of a journey that would lead him deep into a world of hidden suffering and silent cruelty. The memory of the puppy's wide, fearful eyes would drive him long after that day, propelling him to uncover dark secrets, to stand against injustice, and to offer healing to those who could not speak for themselves. And as he walked back to his patrol car, puppy cradled against his chest like a precious cargo, he understood that this single moment of rescue was not just the end of one story, but the beginning of another, one filled with challenges and triumphs, tests of courage and wells of compassion, all sparked by that first trembling whimper that refused to be ignored. As he held the puppy, its tiny heart fluttering like a fragile bird against his chest, memories of his own childhood came flooding back. The day he found a scared stray kitten hiding under his family's porch, how his father had taught him that compassion was the truest form of courage. Officer Coleman felt a stirring of something deep within his soul, a sense of purpose that transcended the uniform he wore. He placed the puppy on a soft blanket in the back of his patrol car, wrapping it in his scarf to keep it warm, and watched its small body relax for the first time in days, as its frightened panting softened into contented sighs. He could nearly feel the beat of hope growing stronger inside that small frame, fighting back the darkness that had once threatened to extinguish it. His mind raced with questions. Who had abandoned this innocent creature? How many others might still be suffering in hidden corners? The setting sun cast long shadows across the pavement, and Coleman resolved to follow every lead, no matter how far it took him. In that moment he imagined the puppy now named Chance, thriving in a safe home, surrounded by love and laughter, its past wounds healed by kindness. He pictured himself standing before a judge, testifying against the heartless traffickers, who saw living beings as mere commodities, determined to bring them to justice. Each step he took from the roadside, each breath he drew, was filled with newfound determination. He replayed the whimper in his ears, transforming it from a sound of fear into a call to action. With each mile driven toward the station, he plotted his investigation, recalling every detail, the faded license plate, the stench of unwashed fur, mingled with the sickly sweetness of fear. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with obstacles, skeptical superiors, a tangled web of illegal breeders, and the challenge of rallying a community to stand against animal cruelty. Yet he also felt a flicker of optimism, believing that this single act of rescue could ignite a chain reaction of kindness in others who heard the story. He pictured neighbors checking forgotten corners of their own streets, volunteer vets offering free checkups, and strangers moved to open their homes to the once abandoned animals. Even the simple act of placing a single nurturing hand on a trembling puppy, he realized, could echo through countless lives, forging connections across cities, and giving voice to the voiceless. And as the night closed in, Officer Coleman pressed his palm against Chance's soft belly, silently promising never to let him face another moment of fear or hunger. That one promise, he believed, would guide him through every trial to come, reminding him always that compassion is the greatest form of justice, and that every life, no matter how small, is worth fighting for. The following morning, with dawn's pale light filtering through the station windows, Coleman gathered his team, Sarah, from Animal Control, and Dr. Marquez, a forensic veterinarian, whose gentle expertise brought hope to every battered animal in her care. He recounted Chance's rescue with passionate urgency, his voice steady yet rich with emotion, as he described the puppy's hollow gaze and rattling breath. Together they pored over every clue found in the notebook of coded addresses and half-erased phone numbers, aware that behind each scribble lay another soul in need of rescue. The air hummed with determination, as if Chance himself whispered encouragement from his warm bed in the corner, a silent symbol of the change they were about to unleash. Outside, the steady drip of rain against the pavement sounded like a rhythm of renewal, washing away the sorrow of past neglect and heralding the possibility of fresh beginning. In that moment, Officer Coleman felt something swell inside him, a conviction that this mission was a calling, not just a job. He vowed that for every tear shed by an overlooked creature, they would shed no more, replacing despair with safety, anguish with hope. And as Chance stretched his small legs and sniffed curiously at the chaotic bustle of the station, Coleman knew that their journey had only just begun, and that together they would shine a light into the darkest of places, guided by nothing but the simple, unwavering truth that love is the most powerful force on earth. Over the next days, Liam threw himself into the investigation with an intensity he had never known before, his mind racing as he pored over every scrap of evidence in the dim light of the precinct's back office, where the stale scent of coffee and the whisper of turning pages became the soundtrack to his determination. He discovered, tucked between yellowing receipts and half-erased phone logs, a battered notebook filled with cryptic addresses, scrawled in faded ink, and phone numbers that seemed to have no real names attached, just coded references that hinted at a well-organized operation hiding in plain sight. Liam's heart pounded as he traced each location on a hastily drawn map, the lines connecting dotted waypoints like a spider's web, trapping helpless creatures in its sticky threads. He learned, with a mixture of horror and resolve, that the little puppy he had rescued was only one victim among countless others, mercilessly bred, caged, and shipped off, as though emotion and life itself were nothing more than inventory. Determined to root out the truth, he reached out to Sarah from Animal Control, whose soft-spoken compassion and unwavering empathy for every trembling animal made her the perfect partner, and to Dr. Marquez, the forensic veterinarian, whose gentle expertise revealed the cruel methods used by the traffickers. Microabrasions in the puppy's skin that matched others found at distant locations, and faint chemical traces in its fur that linked back to a hidden breeding compound far outside city limits. Night after night, under the warm glow of a single desk lamp, the three of them sat shoulder to shoulder, sharing cups of lukewarm coffee and exchanging theories amid the low hum of the copier. They decrypted coded symbols that led them to abandoned warehouses nestled behind desolate freight yards, where they found rows of metal cages coated in rust, each one housing animals too weak to lift their heads, their mournful eyes reflecting the weight of their suffering. With every new lid, a secret ledger listing buyers in distant states, a GPS coordinate scratched hastily on an envelope. They felt the oppressive burden of cruelty pressing down on their spirits, Yet beneath that heaviness burned a fierce resolve to bring these crimes to light. Liam often caught himself staring at the photograph of the puppy he had saved, now resting safely in Sarah's care, its once matted coat beginning to grow soft and healthy as it slept soundly on a plush blanket. That image reminded him of what they were fighting for, innocent lives yearning to be free. The team grew closer with each revelation, their quiet conversations punctuated by Sarah's gentle encouragement. "We can do this, Liam," she would say, her voice steady despite the tears brimming in her eyes, and Dr. Marquez's analytical calm, "Every mark we decode brings us closer to those who need our help." As autumn gave way to winter, the days grew shorter, but inside the station, their spirits burned brighter with the promise of justice. Liam sometimes paused to look at the notebooks spread around him, the pages filled with arcane codes and addresses, and he felt both the weight of responsibility and the spark of hope, knowing that every moment spent chasing these clues could save another life from unimaginable suffering. He pictured the moment when they would finally stand before the perpetrators, the shadowy figures who treated living creatures as commodities and exposed their network to the harsh light of day, driven by the conviction that animals, like humans, deserved compassion, respect, and a chance to live free from fear. And late into the night, when the rest of the world seemed to sleep, Liam, Sarah, and Dr. Marquez sat beneath the gentle glow of that single overhead bulb, the sound of turning pages and the soft scribble of pens, their anthem of hope, united by a shared belief that even the darkest secrets could be unraveled by unwavering determination and the simple, profound desire to protect those who could not protect themselves. Finally, the day came to act, and as twilight deepened into a velvety night sky, Liam and his small band of dedicated allies moved like shadows across the fields toward the old, weathered barn that had become the centerpiece of their mission. Each footstep was guided by the flicker of moonlight on dew-soaked grass, and every breath carried the weight of all they had uncovered, all the suffering they had witnessed, and all the hope they had nurtured in secret plans and whispered strategies. With hearts pounding in unison, they slipped through a broken side door, and the moment they entered, the air seemed to thicken with the chorus of desperate whimpers and plaintive barks that echoed through the makeshift cages lining the dusty interior. It was a sound that wrenched their souls, a stark reminder of the cruelty that had led them here, but also a clarion call that steeled their resolve. Moving swiftly but gently, they unlocked the cages one by one, their hands trembling not from fear but from a profound empathy for every pair of frightened eyes that looked toward them, as if desperate for a beacon of kindness in a world that had forgotten their names. Puppies with matted fur and swollen bellies scrambled into scrubbing arms, and older dogs with mournful faces pressed against the bars, their tails timidly wagging when they felt the warmth of human touch. Sarah, her voice soft yet firm, soothed the animals with comforting words, while Dr. Marquez knelt by a shivering bundle of bones, her experienced hands gently examining scars and marking each creature's condition on a clipboard by the light of a single lantern. Though exhaustion tugged at their limbs, no one hesitated to carry the weakest into fragrant blankets and place them carefully in sturdy crates, lined with soft towels, whispering promises of safety and food and rest. As they worked, Liam's mind raced with memories of every coded notebook entry, every hushed conversation, every long night spent mapping the network that had brought innocent lives to this desolate place. It was a moment of both triumph and sorrow, for each leap toward freedom was also a reminder of lives broken by cruelty. Yet hope blossomed in every rescued heart. When the last crate was secured on a waiting trailer, the team faded back into the night, leaving the barn's hollow echoes to become a tomb for its own evil secrets. Their next move took them to the private airstrip, where the traffickers, alerted by their unexpected raid, had assembled to reclaim their cargo and erase the trail of their crime. The runway lights glowed faintly, and the silhouettes of men armed with rifles emerged from the shadows, their faces masked by greed and arrogance. Liam signaled his team to spread out, tension humming like electricity in the air as guns were drawn on both sides. It felt as though the earth itself held its breath in that tense standoff. Then, in a moment that none could have predicted, Chance, the little puppy once so fragile he trembled at every sound, stepped forward from behind a crate, his small frame bristling with newfound courage, and let out a fierce, high-pitched bark that shattered the silence and drew the attention of the stunned guard. At the same instant, Luna, the mysterious silver-coated dog, whose origins remained as shadowy as the night, bounded from her hiding place with a protective growl that was deeper and more powerful than any human voice. In that miraculous duet of bravery, the two dogs created just enough chaos and distraction for the team to close ranks and disarm the nearest trafficker, herding the criminals back toward the hangar doors where they dropped their weapons in the face of unexpected resistance. Time seemed to slow as dawn's first pale fingers began to brush the horizon with gentle light, and the sanctity of the moment became crystal clear. It was not just the humans who had orchestrated this rescue, but also the rescued Chance and Luna, who had become unlikely heroes. When the sun finally rose, washing the tarmac with golden warmth, the airstrip was transformed from a clandestine den of cruelty into a makeshift sanctuary where rescued animals, blinking at the new day, were met by volunteers carrying bowls of water and fresh blankets. Chance, his fur now slightly tousled from the night's ordeal, nudged Liam's outstretched hand with a gruff but affectionate woof, while Luna sat regally by his side, her bright eyes reflecting the hope that every life could be reclaimed and redeemed. Liam looked around at the scene, the humans working in quiet harmony, the animals tentatively exploring their surroundings, the dawning sky promising a future unmarred by fear, and felt a surge of emotion that was equal parts relief and awe. In that vast field-turned sanctuary, he understood that every small act of kindness, every sacrifice of time and energy, had rippled outward to create a wave of change strong enough to topple an entire network of cruelty. He realized that justice was not merely about punishment, but about restoration, and that the scars of suffering could be healed by compassion and unwavering commitment. And as the warmth of the morning sun fell on Chance and Luna, two souls who had once been powerless, now standing at the forefront of a rescue that would be remembered by many, Liam knew that the story they had written together would inspire others to open their hearts, to listen for the faintest cry in the darkness, and to act when duty and mercy call in the same breath, because sometimes it takes a tiny puppy's brave bark and a silver dog's protective stance to show the world that love and courage can conquer even the cruelest of evil.